Your Excellency, the Minister of Environment, Sustainable Development and Ecological Transition, Mr. Jacona, and please let me stand on existing protocol by acknowledging every partner, the heads of our institutions, delegates. You're welcome. I don't want to take too much time on that, so I stand on existing protocol. But let me also join to welcome the 12th Conference on Climate Change and Development in Africa, taking place here in the very lovely city of Abidjan. I hope many of you won't be like me, that immediately the conference is over, you hop onto the plane and go home. Take a day to explore this very lovely city. On behalf of the African Development Bank, I want to express our heartfelt gratitude to the ClimDev partners for convening this 12th conference. Like already mentioned, these partners include the African Union Commission, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, the government of Cote d'Ivoire, and the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, PACJA, and of course, the African Development Bank. As you know, we are meeting over the next 3 days to discuss African priorities, also to develop frameworks for vital climate solutions and identify financing needs for climate investments. As highlighted by the 2023 State of the Climate in Africa report, which will be revealed at this conference, Africa continues to face significant climate challenges, which are with very severe impacts on the continent, and this covers virtually all economic sectors. Climate change has already led to an increase in weather-related disasters and to the displacement of millions of people in Africa, posing significant threats to socioeconomic development. The ability to address these weather-related and economic impacts is really why it's traceable to the limited availability of data that we have. And to address that, the ClimDev initiative was actually established, for which the CCDA is a very major component of that. So it is very gratifying to see that we're already on the 12th conference and also noticing the positive impacts that this conference has created. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that despite contributing the least to global warming, that 9 out of 10 of the most vulnerable countries to climate change are in Africa. As a response, we need to continuously increase our support and financing for Africa to address growing impacts of climate change on our national economies, societies, and ecosystems. While our priorities should be on fostering climate-resilient development, balancing adaptation with investments in climate-resilient development, we should also be recognized for Africa's huge contributions to keeping global warming low. We're a low-emitting continent, and we are committed to remaining a low-emitting continent. To achieve this, we greatly need adequate financing, technology transfer, and capacity building in line with the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. Despite the urgent crisis and Africa's heightened vulnerability, there's a significant lack of funding for adaptation and resilience building on the African continent. As you may know, the current global climate finance falls far short of the needs and expectations of African countries. The goal of providing $100 billion that was pledged at COP15 in 2009 falls far short of the estimated 1.3 trillion that is now assessed as the needs to address global issues annually. And we've also seen that the goal of doubling adaptation finance by 2025 is also not materializing. The African Development Bank is committed to supporting efforts to build climate and disaster resilience in Africa, including through investments, technical assistance, and capacity building. We are cultivating strong partnerships that are helping to mobilize climate finance for weather observation infrastructure in Africa. Early this year, addressing the high-level strategic roundtable on climate finance during the spring meetings of the World Bank and the IMF, the president of the African Development Bank Group, Dr. Kinwumi Adesina, outlined the bank's commitment to supporting Africa by doubling its climate finance to $25 billion by the end of the year. And being able to increase Africa's share of climate finance, move it from 3% to 10%. We've always said it is embarrassing that a continent with so much resources, with so much potentials, with so much needs, can only mobilize 3% of global climate resources. We need to work on changing that. To date, the African Development Bank has mobilized about $4 billion in co-financing from partnerships with multilateral climate finance institutions like the GCF, the Climate Investment Funds, and the Global Environment Facility. Despite this, we joined the call for a reformation of the climate finance architecture. We've seen that it's generating resources that are not adequate, not accessible, and does not address the needs of the people who need it the most. So we need to change that, and I'm glad that this is constantly on the table of our negotiators and our leaders. Moreover, the African Development Bank has recently activated a special climate action window to support climate resilience, mobilize $429 million as seed capital. This window will help Africa's low-income countries deal with the severe impacts of climate change. And I'm happy to note that 75% of the fund's resources will go towards adaptation and resilience, 15% for mitigation, and 10% for technical assistance. The response to our first call for adaptation proposals has been very overwhelming, with $4 billion worth of projects requested for. This is over 10 times the total envelope of resources that we have. The second call for proposals under the mitigation sub-window is currently open. This will be followed soon by the launch of the technical assistance sub-window. I will encourage partners to take advantage of these resources that are available. It is our hope that the climate action window will become a significant driver of climate finance on the continent and will help fill the significant climate financing gap in Africa, increase the continent's readiness to and access to climate finance. Let me also state here that we're increasingly seeing the need for innovative climate financing. The normal access routes we have through donors and donors is drying up. So we need to think of more innovative ways. And one of those innovative ways which will be discussed here at this session is a carbon market. But again, we need to understand that there are some complexities, there are some uncertainties around the carbon market. But we need to know that Africa will not and should not sell itself cheap or sell its assets cheap through the carbon market. We have what it takes, whether you call it voluntary carbon market or compliance carbon market, carbon is carbon. And we will continue to stand firm to ensure that Africa gets the best from its carbon market. And so I want to commend the African Union Commission for the work that it's doing in leading the development of a continental strategy on the carbon market. I also want to commend initiatives like the Africa Carbon Market Initiative that is out there trying to make sense of what is available. And the African Development Bank has pledged to set up, hopefully before the end of the year, an Africa Carbon Support Facility that will actually help investors and help those who want to invest in the carbon market to make sense of the carbon market so we don't sell ourselves cheaply anymore like we've done with all other of our economic assets. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by reaffirming that the African Development Bank will continue to work with African countries to strengthen partnerships for investments that mitigate the impacts of climate change and climate variability. I thank you very much. Thank you.